Hello and welcome to episode 3 of A Legionary Life, A Soldier of Mars. In the last episode, we went ahead and moved quite a bit of the rest of our legion to deal with some Carthaginian armies to the west before they could meet up with another army and perhaps crush us. We managed to succeed defeating that army and taking the General Hanno captive. We've just gotten back to camp for this next downtime period. So we'll go ahead, probably do some shopping a little bit, and then look at doing extra patrols to pass time. In the meanwhile, in terms of deeds, we've already vanquished quite a lot of people and gotten quite a few rewards. We were also denied promotion just because they didn't have the spots available. I think the next promotion we have available from Optio is Centurion, so our next promotion will be to Centurion, which is quite good. So let's go ahead and just get those extra patrols in and pass time. Random encounter, hail of bullets, Balearic slingers, which we're kind of used to by this point. We'll rally the men in advance, and once we get close to them, the slingers will melt away. Your troops are in awe of you. Maintaining discipline comes easy. Opinion of troop and Centurion. I really wish there was an easier way to get opinion proconsul, but there isn't. Something is causing a stir through the camp. Actually, you're sure you've heard a cheer of jubilation, then you find out. Big news from Rome. Hasdrubal's Barca's army, which crossed the Pyrenees last year after escaping you, was finally intercepted in Italia by two consular armies before he could join his brother Hannibal further to the south. His army was annihilated near the river Metaurus, and Hasdrubal himself died fighting alongside his men. Hannibal is isolated now, and Rome has never been so safe since he crossed the Alps. When you embarked 3 years ago, all this seemed next to impossible. The revelry goes on for a long time. So with that means that Italia itself doesn't have as much pressure on it, which means that our position in Spain here will really be putting a lot more pressure on. Of course, we have another foraging party to go after. 2 villages top left, 3 top right. We'll try and go to the 2 to the left first. And also see if we can't run across any other supplies while we're out here. Which we can seem to find quite a few, actually. See, there's a whole one right there. And you can see that sometimes we don't even have to go into the village to acquire all the supplies we need. And we'll go ahead and head back to the starting point. And we've completed our mission. No mental attribute increase because ours are already so high. Another thread. Marcus Alfinus is a lazy and undisciplined soldier. The careless, neglectful way in which he performs his duties has already caused trouble in the past, but his family ties to the Centurion make sure he always gets his way. We're going to confront the Centurion, but do it in private. You approach the Centurion at the first opportunity and explain your concerns that his partially might encourage resentment and lacks discipline among the rest of the soldiers. Virtue increased by 5. He admits that your concerns might be well-founded. He will speak to Alfinus and tell him to clean up his act or there will be consequences. Good, because I think if you do it in public, the opinion Centurion goes down. We are hailed by another group of Balearic slingers. We'll rally them in advance. But I think if you confront him in public, that actually makes him lose opinion, because you're basically causing him a little bit of public embarrassment. There's a large party of Scutari by a stream and not far from you. This is disputed territory and they are not friends. It's not long before they are trading insults and vulgar gestures with your men. You recognize the glitter and chainmail on one of them, a chieftain. I will challenge any of them to a duel. A large warrior takes up the challenge. He tries to surprise you with a javelin, but his aim leaves much to be desired. So we'll go ahead and throw the javelin right back and nail him in the chest, and then get a sword hit on him, and that kills him. He stares at you for a long moment before crashing to the ground. I will issue another challenge. Another man comes forward, not as massive as the other one, but covered in chainmail. He must be their leader. We'll throw a second javelin, And we've broken his shield, which means that he can't block anymore. We'll go for the neck because he's got chainmail, and go for the neck again, and that's the leader down. The Hispanians fall silent. They can't believe their chief is dead. You grab the rich spoils and lead your men away. 2 more cups for voluntarily defeating people, and we'll go ahead, move on. Another display here. A slave bumps into and falls, dropping his load. We're gonna make sure he's alright. He apologizes to you as you help him get on his feet. Your kindness seems to catch him off guard. Virtue increased by 3. He finishes gathering his stuff off the ground, then walks away, apologizing once more, a puzzled expression on his face. Because normally slaves were treated pretty badly in the Roman period. There are even slaves that I believe fought for the Romans. But where we are in the Hastati, and then the heavier infantry in the Triari, and even the Veetes, which are the light troops, I want to say they were all Roman citizens. The auxiliaries might not have been. They may have been second-class citizens, but I don't quite remember off the top of my head. But anyways, we've reached the end of this rest period. We'll go ahead and move on. Hasdrubal Gisco and Megabarca, Hannibal's youngest brother, are leading the remaining armies of Carthage in this theater. They have joined forces, set on dealing with you once and for all. Scipio himself leads whatever forces he has at his disposal to face them. The legions of the Italic Alae, of course, but also a large number of native allies. You don't like the rumors you've been hearing. It seems the enemy outnumbers you by a fair margin. When you come in sight of the Punic camp near the town of Illipa, you can see for yourself the reports were not overblown. Joy. So we have quite a large army to fight. Your army is busy building its camp across the broad plain that separates you from the Carthaginians. A large cavalry host comes forward from the other side, trying to take you by surprise. To their dismay, they find out Scipio hid his own cavalry behind the hill. The sudden counterattack stalls the assailants for a while, but the fight is in the balance. Soon your maniple is sent out to back up the horsemen. Your cavalry has been slowly taking ground thanks to your support. Yet another charge brings chaos to both sides, you see a Numidian cavalryman break through and approach you from the rear. These horsemen are considered among the best in the world. They were key to many of Hannibal's victories in the early years of the war, and all your compatriots who have met them on the battlefield have learned to respect them. I'll face him myself. A roar rises up from your men as you, their Optio, step forward and face the Numidian alone. You don't think the Centurion will be enthusiastic when he learns about this. We're going to use our javelin like a spear. For all his skill, he's still a light cavalryman. He can't charge headlong at you. You stand fast and leave no opening, then attempt to counterstrike with your improvised spear. You hit him square in the chest, and your weapon splits under the impact. The lifeless body of the horseman rolls shortly on the ground. You resume your place in the maniple amongst the cheers. Excellent, so we've taken out a Numidian cavalryman. The skirmish goes on for a long time, but in the end, the Carthaginians have to give up and ride back to their camp. Nothing else relevant happens for the rest of the day. And we get a cup for facing the horsemen, and we'll go ahead and move on again. And now the day has come. The voices of officers giving orders and the sound of marching feet fill the air as your column leaves the camp. All your efforts over the last 4 years are at stake today. Your maniple takes its position on the battlefield. If you fail here, this vast plain is the last place you'll ever see. The legions of Rome and the Italic Ally are in the center. Your local allies' light troops are on the wings. When the dust settles, you see the distant enemies. Hasdrubal Gisco adopted a similar approach with his heavy infantry in front of you. His elephants stand like towers in front of his Hispanian allies on the wings. You wait in silence. You have to trust your fellow soldiers. If at any point they panic and break formation, then all is lost, no matter what you do. You try not to dwell on it. The wait seems to go on forever. Minutes pass, then hours. Neither general gives the signal to advance. As the sunset approaches, you see a motion ripple through the enemy front. They are not advancing though, they are going back to their camp. Soon after, the same order is given to you. You march back with a mix of relief and frustration. The following day the scene repeats itself, and the day after that, and so on for several days. The Carthaginians are always deployed first, their heavy infantry in the center, and you follow soon after, mirroring their arrangement. You can't help but wonder what Scipio is up to. He displayed plenty of initiative and acumen at New Carthage and Baecula, yet now he's merely responding to Hasdrubal's moves. There must be something, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Then one morning you are all awakened sooner than usual. The order is to have breakfast and prepare to march out. Something is off with the position of your legion in the outgoing column. You'll end up on a wing rather than in the center. Things are starting to make sense. Very shrewd. Your cavalry and skirmishers are harassing the Punic camp, forcing Hasdrubal Gisco to respond and deploy in a hurry. Both armies are fully positioned. The dust has not settled yet, but you are quite sure you're facing the enemy light infantry now, rather than their elite heavy troops. This time there will be no turning back. And we will continue. Scipio himself takes command of your wing. You wheel to the right, then turn to the left. Your 3 lines have become columns. You have little trouble directing your men as they flawlessly execute the complex maneuver. As a column, you can advance much faster than usual. You see that the other wing on the left, also made of heavy footmen, is doing the same. The line formed by your Spanian allies in the center is moving forward at a slower pace. You are now close enough to see the Carthaginian left wing. You wheel to the right once more, then turn and face them in your usual formation. You have been too fast for them to react properly. Their elephants are being driven away by your skirmishers. At last you are ordered to advance. Not only are you going to face light troops, but you know the enemy had no time to eat this morning because of your surprise attack. You have a huge advantage in the long run. When the other side is at the right distance, you prepare to hurl your first javelin. We're going to pick off a specific target, and we kill him on the spot, and we get closer for the fight. As we move to the front and take our centurion spot, and we'll throw our javelin, hitting him in the arm, then going for a next strike, which we miss. Once again go for a next strike, and then recover, and then rest. Once again, going for the same tactic, neck, then torso, kill another one, neck, torso, and so on and so forth, as we have in several of the last battles. But, like I said, this is what I found to be the most effective way to do things. Another thing you can do, if you don't have it skilled, you can also feint. Feinting will reduce the enemy's stance, open up opportunities. You can also shield knock and shield charge to try and reduce that stance as well. Then you can also soft spot. Soft spot, you're basically looking for holes in the armor in certain locations. And then of course you can always rest. But we just really need to attack because our weapon skill is so basically high that it's gonna hit most soft spots anyways and ignore the spots where armor is. And sometimes you can even kill the enemy in one attack to the neck like that. But I think even when we get to the later game, when we do have to fight some harder enemies, we really don't have to go away from this so much. Just because of our high skill, but definitely if you're playing not as souped up of a game as me, or you're just starting out and you don't have enough character creation points to get any of the natural swordsman, national shieldsman situations, definitely degrading the enemy stance is something you have to do a lot more. But we've gone ahead and taken care of our first enemy wave, and we'll move to the back. We managed to keep the troop from sliding into disarray, and we're once again back up at the front. We'll once again be going for the same attacks. Yeah, another thing you do have to worry about is when you're outnumbered, you really need to try and focus on one enemy, take that one enemy all the way out, so that you obviously have less people swinging at you. I really find it's a bad idea to kind of try and split your attacks between multiple people, because you just don't get as much basically value. You're gonna have more people swinging at you constantly and whatnot. But for now, and like I said, at this level, it's really not necessary. But we'll deal with these Catratus light infantry as they keep coming up. We seem to be gaining plenty of morale and opinion, which I think we've already maxed out, but hey, that's okay. The more we can take out, the more people we can keep alive in our maniple, and also the more likely we are for promotion if the spot for Centurion comes up. And with that, that's the second round. Despite your efforts, the enemy formation is tenaciously holding its ground. You have weakened them enough. Pinned down by your Hispanian allies in the center, the African infantry can't come to the aid of these Catrati. There's no reason to expose yourselves more than necessary, so you ordered to step back and let the Principes take over. Very soon the wings of the Punic front start to collapse, forcing the unprotected center to follow. Hasbrodel Gisco manages to rally what he can of his fleeing army and forms a new defensive line on a hill close to his camp. He has lost too many troops, however, and the morale must be shaky at best. Your army is waiting at the bottom of the hill when the signal to attack comes through. You fairly outnumber the Punics now. This won't take long. You supervise the maniple from behind, but there's not much to do here. The disheartened Carthaginians give way after a brief clash, but your chase is nipped in the bud when a sudden downpour overwhelms the battlefield. There's no chance but to go back to the camp. Some of the soldiers are wondering out loud why the gods are protecting the Punics. You are shepherding the men on the way back. The visibility is very poor, to put it mildly, and the mud is not helping. For a moment, it seems a couple of your legionaries are going astray, and we'll bring them back before they get lost. You abruptly grab the two soldiers and drag them back to the slowly moving maniple. At first, they are about to complain, but they are careful to keep their mouth shut as soon as they recognize you. Yeah, you really don't want to complain at the optio of your maniple. It's generally a pretty bad idea. You make it back at last. You need all the rest you can get. And with that, we'll continue on. Most of their local allies deserted the Carthaginians soon after the battle. Hasdrubal Gisco and the remainder of his army fled during the night. Scipio leads you in pursuit. They are close to the sea when you finally entrap them. What follows is nothing more than butchery. Your maniple isn't even involved, as the outnumbered Punics are slaughtered. A few thousand evade the bloodbath. They entrench themselves on the top of the nearby hills. You lay siege to them and wait. They won't last long without water. When they surrendered, there's no trace of Hasdrubal and Mago. They made their escape, but it matters little. It is over. Carthage's presence in Hispania is all but obliterated. No mental attribute increase, but if we continue on, we do get another silver armor for our battle prowess, and we have been promoted to Centurio Posterior. A few months later, the last fortress of Gades surrenders without a fight. When you arrived 4 years ago, 3 large armies were keeping Hispania under Carthage's thumb. Now this land is firmly in the hands of Rome. You embark once again, this time heading home. After such a long time in the army, you can't wait to see your family. And yet your new life back home is not as you anticipated. Maybe it's just your people who are different, or maybe it's just you. What you saw, what you got used to, you can't shake the feeling that something is amiss now. Scipio is back too. Many Roman citizens regard the young general as a hero. After the astounding victory in Hispania, he is elected consul. After a long debate, Scipio is allowed to carry out his plan to invade Africa, the vast land beyond the sea to the south, dominated by the city of Carthage itself. He is given command of the legions of Sicilia. They are composed of survivors of Cannae, confined to the island until the end of the war as a punishment, doomed to a long-lasting exile by someone else's ruinous splendor. The new consul is forbidden to levy any more legionaries, but volunteers are permitted. You can actually go ahead and end your game here if you want to. However, I really don't recommend it, so we'll continue on with the game and enlist. You travel to Sicilia by sea with Scipio himself and thousands of other volunteers. From there, the consul intends to launch the invasion of Africa that will hopefully end this war once and for all. Opinion consul increased by 2. You join the 2 existing legions and begin the long months of training and preparations leading up to the new and final departure. However small, your reputation with the new consul carries significant weight with your senior officers. Opinion Centurion has increased by 38, because we're moving from our old legion to a different legion, which means we'll be fighting with different men. In recognition of your efforts and achievements, you have been promoted to Centurio Prior. So we were posterior while we're there, we're now Prior, so if we go look at this, we are in charge of both the whole right-hand century and the whole maniple, which is quite a lot of men. And so now we're actually in Sicily, which means that the resources and weapons and gear we have access to are actually going to be a little different. So we can go ahead and look through this. You do have, like, for example, the Thracian helmet now, which if we compare, you can see it has more protection, but it does have a bigger awareness penalty, but more coverage of the head and the neck, more damage protection. So I think we're actually going to take this Thracian helmet. And see, we do have chainmail in here, but if we compare, it's the exact same as the ones we already have. You can get the back and breastplate, Celtic helmets, greaves, but again, a lot of these are the same. One of the tribunes commends you in front of the commander. Opinion consul increased by 2. So yes, now that we're a centurion, things changed a little bit. We still have the opinion of our troops beneath us, but now rather than the opinion of the centurion, we are now a centurion. Which means that this second slide of basically opinions switches to the tribunes, or basically the officers of the army that sit beneath the consul. And then of course, we still have the consul / proconsul there too. But all in all, things carry over for the most part. We'll keep looking, see if there's anything interesting here. And we have a thread of our life. Your soldiers see you as a reliable and just leader, which is good. We want that. Couldn't find anything shopping, so we'll do miscellaneous. We're gonna go ahead and do some extra coaching now. Basically providing battle experience and coaching up those beneath us, and we have another thread of our life. Like many others here, Laetorius is a survivor of Cannae. They hardly ever talk about it, as living through such a horror scarred most of these men for life, and they had more than enough time to brood over it during the many years of exile. You were a kid when the tragic battle took place, and Laetorius is telling you the tale of how he survived, how part of his maniple broke through the encircling army of Hannibal and fled, leaving the slaughter behind, a slaughter that went on until sundown. We will be sympathetic. Your own combat experience tells you that these men have suffered a great injustice. They should have been commended for surviving a disaster of that magnitude. Instead, they were punished and stripped of their honor. You express your opinion, and although he doesn't say much, Laetorius is plainly relieved at your understanding. We'll go ahead and do more patrols now to pass time. We do have a random encounter. You hear a suspicious noise coming from the underbrush about 60 or 70 feet to your right. You alert your companions. When the javelins come, you are ready. One of them rebounds off your shield. The ambushers flee before you can give chase. The locals may not like Carthage, but that doesn't mean they are pleased with your occupation. Great. Your independent thinking and decisiveness makes you stand out in drills. Council opinion increases by 3. Now that we're Centurion, we'll start getting more events like that. Hopefully increasing consul authority more and more. Among the many camp followers, there's a woman who claims to be a seer. For 2 denarii, she will predict your future. Many soldiers go to her to know if they'll survive the war. We're not going to pay her a visit because we know we're going to survive. You don't trust the genuineness of her supposed prophecies. There are better ways to spend your time and money. We'll go ahead and keep going on patrols. Go ahead and get this done. One of the tribunes commands us. Consul opinion increased. Once again, random encounter. More javelins. rebounds off the shield, and the people flee. Which is not surprising. We'll do expert guard. Oh, can't do guard now, so we'll just do coaching, more consul or tribune recommendation. Alright, and with that, I think we'll actually end here, still in Sicily, before we go on the invasion of Africa. So thank you so much for watching this episode. Please make sure you hit the like button if you liked the episode, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more episodes in the future. Leave a comment down below with what you liked. If you disliked the video, hit the dislike button, but leave a comment down below with what you disliked. I'm always looking to make improvements. I hope you have a nice rest of your day, and bye bye.